as somebody who works with podcasts, you want to get to the meat of like, okay, so what's this podcast going to be all about? And I did not press record on this, so that's fine. Sorry.
That's how I remember the first time like meeting you, and then like,
What'd you think? Honestly, what were your first impressions of me?
to be honest,
What do you mean you lived on the streets and you were like surviving and doing all this stuff? Like it wasn't computing because it was such a foreign, I mean, I'd seen it. As time goes, the more and more respect I have for anyone that is clean and is in that journey.
the people at my old company, when I decided to leave, well, did you read a book? Did you see a social media? Like, what made you decide to
Like
quit?
it's a midlife crisis
Like
or
it's
something.
Something bad.
I'd love for you to kind of like give a message that you think would be valuable to somebody out there that might be like in that position we were in not that long ago.
Honestly, 3 words come to mind, and that is,
All right, welcome to the first ever As We Scale podcast. My name is Josh. I'm your host, and in a minute, I'm going to introduce a very special first guest. But just a little bit about us. If you didn't, this is your first time hearing about us or meeting you, it's nice to meet you. Our whole purpose is to help creators and businesses scale their brands through video content, podcast production, and digital systems. And so that's what we do. So it only makes sense for us to have a podcast as well. And we'll get into more of the reason behind it. But I know as somebody who works with podcasts, you want to get to the meat of like, okay, so what's this podcast going to be all about? So in anticipation of this episode, I put together an actual intro, and sometimes I'll go off the rails. So I'm going to read this intro out, and maybe whenever we clip it up, we'll have to do like some crazy, like edits to it or something like that.
on.
Today's guest isn't just somebody who works with me. He's somebody who believed in me. And when all of this was just an idea, before all of the systems, the cameras, the clients, the studio, Cameron took a leap of faith. He believed in the vision and what we're building and in the kind of future that doesn't exist yet, the one that we're creating in real time, and that's rare. Most people wait until it's safe, until it's proven. Cam didn't. He bet on this before it was comfortable, and I'll never forget that. So today's episode is about more than work. It's about trust, belief, and the power of saying I'm in when people would have said, let me think about it. And with that, Cam, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks for having me on, man. I love the intro that you gave. That was touching. I appreciate that,
Good,
dude. I greatly appreciate that.
And I mean it. Yeah. It's been great. And so a little backstory.
Yeah.
And I did not press record on this, so that's fine. Sorry. The technical part of being like the people behind the scenes, this is something I say in a lot of my content. You probably get sick of hearing it, is it's very easy for me to be creative for somebody else. But when it comes to myself, I'm like the most critical. And I don't think that that's, unnatural. I think a lot of people probably feel that, which is why I'm comfortable saying it, because I want people to know that me too. But just to give a little backstory, so we first met probably years and years ago.
Yes.
And I want to hear your perspective on that. But I would say over the last couple of years, we've had run-ins. So at the last job I was at, you had applied to be a video editor there. That didn't work, which honestly might have been best for you. And also allows us to have another person potentially joining our team that wouldn't have otherwise.
Correct.
And then while I was there, ran into each other again, and then you started helping with another project that we were working on, and so you and I started working together on that. Excited for what the future looks like on that project, to kick that back into gear. But for anyone that's watching and listening, that's kind of where I actually got to see your work, and when we were both kind of in positions where I think we wanted a little bit more out of life or out of what we were at. And that's, I think, really where those conversations had. So, you know me, I like to talk a lot. I can see that you're holding some information, so I'm gonna shut up, and I'd love to hear your perspective.
No, you're actually good, dude. We've known each other for quite a bit. I feel like, we both had the same mentor and instructor, Russ Gryza. We both went to Penna Career Center. So
Mr. G?
Mr. G,
I still
that's
call
right.
him Mr. G.
I know.
I refuse to call him Russ.
He's told me
weird.
to call him Russ many times. I'm just like, dude, you're just
Mr.
Mr. G. That's right.
It's the best name you could have. Anyways.
And then, so our paths crossed many times with that. And I think, if I remember, at least in my memory, the first time that we actually kind of like met and talked was when a bunch of different classes decided to have a digital video production reunion at that park in Bowling Green. And I remember a couple of my friends, a couple of people in your class specifically was just like, oh, is Colvin coming? Is Colvin coming? And I'm just like, who is this Colvin guy? And stuff
Really?
like that. So yeah.
People are asking that? That's wild, dude.
People were wondering if you were going to show up, and then you
crazy.
showed up and stuff like that. And I was just like, oh, it's dope. You know, like.
Did I bring Dylan with me?
You might have.
That was the only reason, by the way, because I was anyways, never mind. That was the only reason he went and vice versa. If he did go, I don't think he did though.
Yeah, I think you were I don't think Dylan. Uh-oh.
That's okay.
Okay.
We're going to roll with it.
All right.
Yep.
Sounds good. But yeah, that's kind of like, that's how I remember the first time like meeting you. And then like,
What'd you think? Honestly, what were your first impressions of me?
to be honest, well, when I first saw you and you wrote up and stuff like that, like I kind of saw you were like I saw you were one of those people that were just like, okay, like, cause like DVP were kind of full of like nerdy type people and stuff like that. And I was just like thinking to myself, like, okay, this is a guy that probably doesn't belong here, you know, almost. Cause like you seemed like a cool dude. Like I can't remember, you were wearing like some type of like, you were definitely all decked out. I remember that. I remember you showed up in like
reunion thing.
Yeah, you showed up and you were all decked out, and like I think I was just like wearing shorts and like a graphic T-shirt and stuff like that. So I was just like, oh man, this kid knows what's up, you know, and stuff like that. Like he's all decked out and shit like that. And then years went by, and then like you said, I honestly didn't know because I was a fan of the show that you were producing, and on YouTube and everything. And I didn't know
say the name too if you want.
Okay, Addiction After Dark. So yeah, you were a producer of Addiction After Dark, and I guess co-creator as well. And so I was just a fan in general, and I didn't know. I knew there were some episodes filmed in Toledo, which I thought was cool, and then. Back in the day, you and the old partner did like kind of like a video, and it was on the YouTube channel. I was just like, oh shit, that's Josh. So I remember reaching out to you, and this was a little bit. I'm jumping a little bit ahead here, but this was a little bit after the interview and stuff like that. So I remember reaching out and saying like, hey, like I didn't realize you guys did this. I really like this show, and I'm not seeing any new episodes. Like, how would you feel if I like start, if not even doing some episodes, at least doing some clips for you? And you're just like, okay, let's meet. And remember when we were meeting, like we didn't have our personal phone numbers, so we had to do the Instagram model. And it was such a pain in the ass because like you would text me and then it would go out like 2 days without hearing from me. And then I would text you back and it would be vice versa. And, and at one point you're just like, fuck it, just here's my number. So,
yeah, I don't know why we were doing that.
I don't know either.
That was weird. Yeah. So yeah, you reached out on Instagram and then we kind of reconnected, and Addiction After Dark is one of those things that I'm excited to talk about the progression of that as we go.
Yeah, me too, man.
But it's something that when it first started was just something that we thought was going to be this alternative to a show that we were doing where you saw more people that were getting their lives back together.
Yeah.
And for somebody who's been in a very privileged position to not experience addiction in the substance or anything of that nature directly, I'm just fascinated about it, and I want to understand, like, obviously growing up in a sheltered, like, and I mean that not that my parents were bad, but sheltered in a way that I just didn't have exposure to it.
Sure.
So to me, I was just fascinated in trying to figure out, like, how did this come to be? What do you mean you lived on the streets and you were like surviving and doing all this stuff? Like it wasn't computing because it was such a foreign, you know, I mean, I'd seen it, but the further I got into that, and as time goes, the more and more respect I have for anyone that is clean and is in that journey. And we still work with people to this day because it's such a deep connection now. And I always wanted that show to be something that would speak not only to people who need the help, but people like me who are maybe not exposed to that to be like, hey, this is a very real thing, and it's not just in Skid Row or Detroit or, you know, I didn't even know Kensington Avenue existed, and that's a whole, you know, like people would think, oh, it's far, but we would travel. And when I tell you we got off the plane within 5 minutes, you know, the other partner, he'd be like, that person's in addiction, that person, because he was in it. And so he could point, he had been there. And so I always wanted it to be a show that raised awareness for people that don't know, because the more people that know, I would hope the more people are like, we need to help these people.
Yeah.
To a point where like it was impacting me where I was like, I don't know if I can go on these interviews anymore, because I'd call my wife and I'm like, I am so like soul drained. Like my heart hurts. Like this person said that all they want is a job and it can be a shitty job, but they just want to come home, have a wife, have a meal with their mom again, a warm meal. And here I am, you know, with whatever privilege I have. And I'm just like, this is sad. So the whole goal for me for that show and why I'm happy and that my whole monologue there, the purpose that I'm trying to get to is now that we're starting to have conversations about how can we take the attention that's garnered and continue to raise awareness, but have the other component that I've always wanted, which is how do we help people? Correct. And if we have that much exposure, we should be able to impact twice, 5, 10 times as many people. And so that's what I want to do. And so you'll have to stay tuned because we're having conversations with all the right people from what it, you know, from all intents and purposes, what it seems. I'm
getting excited for it, bro.
And we're going to start making content again to raise awareness, but also content to like, you know, think, how do we actually help get these people, you know, back in positions to where I've introduced you to some of the best people I know.
Oh yeah.
And they're all out there right now. Yeah. And they just need those resources. So anyways, I spent too long on that.
No,
but
that's
I thought it was important since you brought up Addiction After Dark. That was one thing that I think part of our conversations included is I don't want this, like, it can come across as exploitative if you don't do it right. And if your motives are impure. Yeah. And what I can say with 1,000% certainty now is that anyone that has any ownership of those channels, which is only one person, actually cares and means that and is intending to partner with people that want to help. And that owner's me, by the way, but I'm not saying that as a flex, but more of like,
no, of course,
you know, before that I think people in this area would have questioned the intentions. And I hope that, you know, over the course of time, my works and our works and whoever we involve will show and prove that that's what we're trying to do.
Well, you definitely showed like the caring aspect, especially, I mean, not even just with Addiction After Dark with all of our clients, but it was because I come from a Christian TV background. So there was some things that I had to kind of overthink about in terms of just like, okay, what can we show on TV? What can't we show? But when it was working with drug addicts, so to speak, that was a whole different game. That was a whole different ballpark because it was just like, you know, you don't want to exploit them. And I remember, you know, one of the exercises that you gave me, which I greatly look back and appreciate now, was just like, hey, show me what you got. And then I remember getting like, you know, notes back saying like, okay, like if you add this, that may look at it as like, you know, he likes being an addict or this person likes being an addict. It's just like, you don't want to, you know, exploit them and that was just really interesting because like, I felt like as an editor in general, it made me think of editing differently. Like now I'm extra cautious even with like the clients that we have. Like I never want to purposely edit something. It's almost like being a campaign editor for a politician. You know, you don't want to edit in such a way that you're just like, oh, if I make this video and it's not what they meant, this could really bite them, you know, and really kick them in the ass.
Yeah, I think in our works, you know, we're in a place of like a trust recession. I've heard, and I don't know who coined it. It might have been Gary Vee. It might have been Alex Hormozi, or it might have been neither of them and somebody else. But we're in that because I saw some Shark Tank fake AI videos off of Sora. And I was like, I mean, it was very clear that they were fake based on the context of what they were. It was like very dark humor and like not, but they look so real nowadays that everybody is like untrusting. And I think rightfully so. It's like, is this real? Is this not? And I think that's that's being a critical thinker. I think that's such an important thing. Yeah. And as an editor prior to that, you're the magician. Yeah. You can make people say and do and you could do it. And I think it's a very
scary.
It is. And you know, I think authenticity has always been important to me. And so, you know, when it comes to working with people, we only work with people that, again, I use a lot, my intuition is usually my judge of who we work with and who we don't. But if my intuition's off and it feels like they're not being authentic, then I won't lean into those. But if I get the vibe that you're authentic, and then we're going to try to work with you. And I'm not perfect, and I'm sure I'll make mistakes as we go, but authenticity is important. And when we edit, when it comes down to whoever's touching the content, whether it's editing or scheduling and doing the captions for them, that's important. We don't want to, I think and I don't want to give too much away because honestly, like I'm at a point in my life now where I don't have any ill will or bad blood. I mean, if you ask me, you know, several months ago how I was feeling, I might have been willing to like say some stuff on camera.
Sure.
Now, on and off camera, I'm just at a different place where I just want to help, like I said at the beginning, help people that we're aligned with have accessibility to things that they might feel would cost them money. But what I will say is, because of past experiences working with people who I thought were the epitome of like authenticity and really like that story, and not getting that, it made me like start to second guess. And now that's an important thing moving forward of like, hey, we might not, like I'll sacrifice money that we need in order to stay true to that, because I've experienced that, and I don't want to make this podcast all about that. But what I do want to kind of steer us into is, for me, I like watching content that either inspires me or I can take something away from it. And so I'd like this podcast to be that way. And so I want to keep us going down this line of conversation, but in mind of like authenticity. I think both of us were in positions where, it left a little desire for more. And so I don't want to tell your story because I don't know what you do and don't want to say. But
I'm an open book.
I'd love to kind of just kind of pick your brain of like leaning into the I'm in.
Yeah.
Right. When a lot of people like the Burn the Bridges book and like the talk to us, myself, and I want to hear your perspective on, the times where I would send you like Gary Vee videos or things like that. Like walk me through the impact prior and before and during and kind of where you're at now.
Yeah. So it was very interesting. It was a God moment saying, I remember when we first started, what I really view as like AWS, like I consider like my starting point as just like a contractor was probably back in like late January, early February is when we would have like Saturday meetings and stuff like that. And we would get more into the grind. And I think that's when you started doing more of your own like personal brand content as well. And we had a few clients at the time too. And I was just thinking of just like, okay, like this is just going to be like, maybe just a part-time type of thing. And then suddenly we just kept growing and growing and growing and opening the door. And I remember going to church many times, and the church that I go to, like I'm a very faith/church type person. So when I go to church, I go an hour early, and that hour before the service starts is just to pray and meditate on stuff. And I remember from like, probably like late March, it was like around Easter to like probably like mid-May. It was like kept asking God just like, hey, give me signs that if you want me to jump from this company that I've been at for 10 years to this new adventure, because like it was scary. I mean, it felt like looking now and looking back there was a lot of baby steps that I didn't notice. So a lot of the baby steps was like, getting those more clients. A lot of baby steps was also just like, even editing more and stuff like that. And like having you, input my own ideas into things. So I think one of the craziest things was where it was dwindling down to like May or something. And you were just like, bro, like, I'm going to need an answer soon. And I was scared, dude, because like I was talking with people and it was the typical of just like, you've been there for 10 years, you got good retirement plan, you got benefits. Like you don't want to throw that all away. And like being in kind of like that, when you're in that type of world, like at a job for 10 years, you get used to that routine. You get used to that safety net. So like I was totally afraid of that safety net. And I remember just saying to God, really, I was just like, hey, like, I felt before like you're telling me to lean this way, but I really don't know. Like it was kind of like an angel and a devil on my shoulder, it's just like the devil was just saying, no, you got to stay. And then God, the angel was just like, but look what will happen if you go. And then I remember one night I was scrolling through Instagram or TikTok or something, and literally all it was about taking the jump. And I'm not even making this shit up, bro. It was like Gary Vee, I think it was Alex Hormozy, and a couple of other people that I really admire, like Dr. Jordan Peterson and stuff like that. Cause like, he's one guy that I really admire. He was a guy that used to be a college professor, and then he just blew up on YouTube, and he's just basically said, hey, I outgrown this professorship, this old job, and I'm jumping. And that's what his video was about. So I was just like, all right, I'm doing this. So if it wasn't the next day, it was the following day, I messaged you. I was just like, okay, I wrote up my resignation letter and I'm going to turn it in. And yeah, man. And prior, even before that, there was a lot of little stuff and stuff like that. There was a lot of, and we'll go into a more further podcast for that for another time, because there was a lot of different stuff before it led up to that. But yeah, man, honestly, the jump that made me jump was God sending me those videos, which really sounds weird because like I never saw it. I would be persuaded to make a new career jump through TikTok videos like Gary Vee and stuff like that. But like, I remember being in my apartment and just like watching this. It was like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And then I was just like, dude, I got my answer. And I remember thinking to myself, if I don't make this jump now, I am never going to make this jump. And if I don't do it, it's going to be one of those things where I'm going to be sitting in the same office spot and I'm going to look back and I'm going to regret it. So that's what decided to make the jump. Why I decided to make the jump.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah.
I want to lean in there for a second.
Yeah, of course.
How do you feel now?
Wow. You know, it's weird because I feel like it's just so weird. You know, I feel honestly, if I had to put one word into it, it would be blessed, because just looking back from January to, I mean, we're in like mid-October now. And just see, it almost feels like, you know, it almost feels like a film reel. It almost feels like I'm going for like a photo album and it's just like, you know, type of thing. So it's just like, I'm still kind of processing it, you know, like I know I'm happy and stuff like that, but like, and when I say that I'm processing it, it's just like, holy crap, we went from point A to almost like, maybe we're not at a Z, but maybe we're at a Y. We've been through so much shit, dude. Like we've been through having meetings in your basement to having a studio, like an office space. And it's just crazy. Like I still can't really process it. Like sometimes like I wake up and I'm just like, this can't be real. You know, it's just wild. What about you? What are your thoughts on that? Because I really just can't believe it. That's where I'm at. Like I feel blessed, but I honestly, it still feels so unreal that it's real. You know what I mean?
No, I do. I know what you mean. And I relate and resonate with that a lot. And being totally first off, I would agree. I would co-sign that word of blessed. And I really, especially over the last few weeks, I've been really trying to lean into that and be like, man, just different interactions in life make me feel more and more blessed of like, you know, it's not good to play the comparison game, but sometimes like in my mind, if I'm comparing of like, well, the comparison is, well, it could be worse.
Yeah.
You're in a really good spot. You could be doing this still, or you could be here, or you could be in none of those places. So in that sense, that's been a reminder to feel blessed, because we are. I'm just naturally I think somewhat of a cynical person. I wouldn't say pessimist, but I would say like cynical. So part of me is just waiting for the other shoe to drop and be like, you know what I mean? So I always like, to a degree, I feel a little tense, like that tension's kind of like just always there. Sure. And I'm just not letting it take the driver's wheel all the time, you know? But I would say I'm trying to lean more into my faith of that as well. Of just like, hey, you know, to have that is to doubt that we're in God's purpose. And if we're in God's purpose, he's going to bless it. And if we're not, then he's going to, you know, give us the signs to go the right direction. But so far, I mean, every single person when I left has been nothing but supportive. Yeah. And I wish everybody in the world got along, you know, and in some cases, and it hurts my heart in certain situations where that's not the case, you know, even with my own individual experiences. But every single person we've interacted with individually, not one of them, not one has had like, and I'm not saying this to brag on us, but not one of them has like had a negative thing to say to us or about us as we've gone into this. And I think that that's a sign that we're partnering with the right people, and the people that the conversations just die out or they don't end up working. They're going in a direction of, you know, hey, it's not because of you, it's maybe, you know, budget or this or that or the other, but all of those things I feel like has, you know, God's fingerprints on it. Of course. And so, yeah, in a nutshell, blessed and trying, and continuing to be a work in progress in the more of like the anxious side of things. I think I'm just naturally an anxious person. So
I get that. No, I honestly get that. And I think the biggest kind of like, and excuse my language, but I'm just an authentic person, but the biggest mind fuck for me are always thinking of the what ifs. I mean, just like, and that's what took me the longest time to like say yes to the jump to go to AWS is because like, well, what if this happens? What if this happens? And then I'm just thinking to myself, you know, God has been with me throughout all my life, you know, and stuff like that. And this is ultimately, and I remember the one night we had a call, it was like late at night, like 11:30. And, you know, and I found comfort in this. Like, it sounds weird. Like most people would probably sit back and be like, well, like, what do you mean? Like God can either, you know, keep this as a foundation or he can take it away. And most people will like freak out by that. But like for me, like I found that comforting because I'm just like, wow, like at the end of the day, we're really not in control. And kind of like you, like, I mean, I am an anxious person, but I'm more of just like, if I don't feel like I'm in control of something, that's what makes me feel anxious. So this whole like AWS, this whole working at this company has made me feel more aligned, not with just God, but just being able to lift that control off my shoulders and being like, okay, like, I don't know what could happen tomorrow. Shit could hit the fan tomorrow. Anything could happen tomorrow, you know? You know, we live in uncertain times, like our government is still shut down. We don't know what's going to happen. A depression could happen. And I remember people saying all that shit to me before I made the jump. But what if, and then what helped me too, Josh, was when I remember thinking to myself and I was like all doom and gloom and I went to my therapist and I love my therapist, Christy, if you're watching, I love you. She literally said to me, she's like, well, Cam, that shit's going to happen whether you stay or go to this new company anyway. So what's the difference? Like, what if a second Great Depression happens? You might even lose your job at the 10-year company. So what is stopping you? So I was just like, okay, so, and I say all that to say nothing is certain, and that talking with you and saying like, hey, you know, God is going to open doors. He's going to close doors. He's going to do what he's going to do, made me comfortable enough to jump. Yeah.
That's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
I want to go through, I remember, and this lines up perfectly with what you just shared there.
Yeah.
I remember sending you very similar, like I think we had very similar but differing situations. But for me, I read, you know, and I was even asked, like, what was it? Did you see a video that made you want to quit? Was it like a book you read? Like I remember being asked that, and being honest, it was like a combination of everything. You know,
Yeah.
I read a book called Burn the Bridges, where, you know, there's a lot of concepts in there where it's like, hey, if you believe you're called to do something, you like the idea is you burn the bridges, because if you know that you can go back, then you're always going to have that as a backup option.
Yeah.
I've seen Steve Harvey say sometimes you got to jump, you know, without a chute and figure it out on the way down, you know, or I'm totally probably butchering that. But that's in the back of my memory. That wasn't even something that was present, but I just remember it now. So subconsciously, all of this has been adding up. And, you know, obviously, you know, love Gary Vee, Alex Hormozi. They're big North Stars for us as an agency. But there's like, I'm very music driven. Like when I get in my car, that's like, it's therapy.
Yeah.
You know, I get in my car, I listen to music, you know, and we talked about some concerts that we're like excited about. And, I'm leaning more into that, but like even just in my car, I like envision myself there and in these things. So for me, it's always been there. And there's this one song that I remember sending you. So I just want to read the lyrics. And I encourage anybody, like if this turns into a clip, which I think we will, we'll put it in the caption. I encourage anyone to listen to it, because it was really, it made a big difference, I think, for me. So I'll just read a little bit of the lyrics here. So, not going to be on my deathbed, knowing I'll be buried in regret, thinking about things I never did while I'm taking my last breath. And then the chorus goes, when I die, I'll know I didn't just live, I was alive. And it repeats that.
Wow.
Then next verse, not going to be on my deathbed, wondering why I was always scared to say those words I never said to the ones I loved while I was there. Wow. When I die, I'll know I didn't just live, I was alive. I'll know I didn't just live, I was a person that you were proud of, took chances, didn't doubt them. No need to fear the end, because I'll know I didn't just live, I was alive. Bro, I get goosebumps reading that, and I can hear it in my head. Dude, and I'm like, I was listening to that, no joke, on repeat for probably 2 weeks before I finally made the decision to quit.
Yeah.
And every time I heard it, I was like,
damn it.
Like, I'm just thinking to myself, And what was scarier to me was the thought of, let's say I God blesses me with 100 years, getting to my deathbed and being like, man, I just wish I would have tried this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I
Now
wish I
it's
just
here.
would have tried it once,
Yeah.
but I was too scared, or this, that, or the other. And the job I was at, had the potential to be a retirement job and these different things. And ultimately, I don't know that it would have worked out, but I just remember that was scarier than the thought of not having the security of the job. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But dude, I remember sending that to you, and I think that was either prior or after. Like that must have been prior
It
to
was
you leaving.
prior.
Yeah. It,
And
like
I remember just sitting in my car, and it was so weird because it was like rainy that day. It was like one of those weird like May spring days where it just suddenly rained. And I'm just like sitting in my car, and I remember I was going to lunch, and I just like sat in my car listening to it, and I'm just like, I didn't even have words, dude. I didn't have words. And piggybacking on, isn't that the most interesting thing is when, because like I had people ask that to me, like the people at my old company when I decided to leave, and it was the quotation very similar of, well, did you read a book? Did you see a social media? Like, what made you decide to
like
quit?
it's a midlife crisis
Like
or
it's
something.
something bad. And I'm just like thinking, just like, well, why does that have to be bad?
Yeah.
And I'm just, I just think that's so interesting that you had that same similar experience. So.
Yeah. Dude, we'll have to continue to do this as like a series.
Oh, 100%, brother.
But I do want to ask if there's anyone out there, regardless of circumstance, age, race, whatever it is.
Yeah.
This, I think, is an applicable topic to everybody, and I don't know that everybody's meant to just, up and quit and start a company and do it that way. But maybe they're in a relationship, or they're in a job and they could get another job that could be better for them. From your perspective, I'd love for you to kind of like give a message with that avatar, that person in mind.
Yeah.
And relate it to your personal experience. What has, and you could think on this for a second if you need to, but
Yeah.
what has it done for you, even if this doesn't work out from a personal character development standpoint? What has this done for you that you can take with you that you think would be valuable to somebody out there that might be like in that position we were in not that long ago?
Yeah. No, honestly, 3 words come to mind, and that is life is short. Life is very short, and you don't know what tomorrow holds. So honestly, take the risk. Like doing this has been the most growth that I've had in over the 10 years that I've worked at my previous company. So much growth in so much short amount of time. And even throughout, from going from January to now, so much stuff has happened with, not just within the company, but even personal stuff. And because of that personal stuff, it's made me realize that life is so short. Like I've known people that have tragically, passed away and stuff like that. And I remember my one friend saying to me that, I wish I could have said this or that to that person before they passed. So it's just made me realize that, even, and this isn't going into politics or anything, but even just like the whole Charlie Kirk incident, that blew my mind just because of how he's literally like today, which is weird, is his birthday, would have been his 32nd birthday. And I'm 32. I just turned 32 this year. And just realizing that life can be taken away that quick. And it made me just realize that I don't want to have any regrets. So, if you're watching this and you're afraid to, anything could not work out. It could be, like asking that, crush out to, a movie or something like that. Like, what's the worst they can say? No. I mean, what is a no, honestly? I mean, like, I used to think that was the worst word ever, but now I look as no as like a blessing. Like, if someone says no to me about anything, I look at it as like, okay, God is telling me either this situation is not right for you or just not right now. So I would say if anybody's listening, life is short and don't be afraid to take the risk, because if you don't take the risk, you don't know what you're going to miss. So.
I love that, dude.
Amen,
and
brother.
I greatly appreciate you.
Heck yeah, brother.
And I'm excited for this to keep going. And any clips that you see out there from this are by our very talented editor.
Oh, thank you, sir.
And we're very, 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 very blessed to have you. Not just in the company, but just as somebody who, we've grown really close, I think, through all of the different like experiences. So
well, thanks for having a dream, man. I mean, if it wasn't for you, I mean, I literally wouldn't be in this situation. So seriously, like
thank you for saying that.
You need to, and like I think I honestly give credit to your wife, Jamie, as well. Like I think like she, like out of anyone that I've known, like just seeing your guys' marriage, stuff like that. Like, I don't know many people in my life that the wife would just be like, oh, quit your job. Like, start, like the fact that she believed in you just shows me how strong of a bond you guys have and how great of a marriage you guys have. So I think that is, perfect. And it just goes to show that you are who you surround yourself with. One of the clients that I was editing, actually, it was you. You said this, show me the people you surround yourself with, and I'll show you your future.
I said that?
You did.
I might have ripped that from somebody, to be honest with you, but
well, it was a clip I just edited today. You said that, so.
Okay, well, so whoever said that first, I give all credit. I mean, things that move me, I think, stick with me, and thank you for saying all those kind words.
Of course.
And Jamie's the best, and so if you're watching this, Jamie, I love you and I appreciate you. And I'll have to, as soon as we get off of this, when I catch up with her, I'll have to let her know you said that.
Of course,
and she loves you, by the way.
Yeah.
She's like, I love him.
She's a great person.
Best.
You both are great people. So,
well, thank you, dude.
And
I appreciate
they have
that.
great dogs too.
Yes, we do. We'll have to throw up an image of them. Yeah, we got the AWS mascots, is what we used to call them when we were working out of the other set, which is in my basement.
Yep.
So I don't want to take away or pull away from the impact of what you said towards the end there. So, excuse me.
Yeah.
What I'd like to do is just kind of end the podcast just by saying the goal of our podcast, and I had to write this down because, again, I'll get too wordy. The goal of our podcast is to bring more people on who've said, like Cameron, and, I'll give myself flowers for a second. We've said, I'm in, and it's scary as shit. Sorry, Mom. But it is, and it's still scary sometimes. And I will say, having somebody like Cameron is somewhat of an unfair advantage for multiple reasons, but to have somebody, and it doesn't always need to look like that. It could just be your friends and somebody you could go to if you're making this leap and you might not have the ability to bring somebody on with you at the time. Surrounding yourself with the right people, family, friends, whatever that looks like. But the goal is to bring other people on who've said, I'm into whatever that looks like. And personally, I like to learn from podcasts, and I'd love to tell the story of how, I kind of got into the place where we have the ability to sit down in this, because I think it's kind of a unique story. But I always like watching things where I learn. So my goal is to have people on and learn from them and bring you along with us, so that whatever we're learning, we're giving you access to, because ultimately I love learning, and when I learn something, I want to share it. And so that's not even on my script. But anyways, so today I feel like I learned even more about you, Cam, and I hope you guys got something out of this too. But with that, we'll end our first episode, and we'll see you next time.